So tonight we are continuing in the amazing teachings of Rabbi Nachman from Breslov, and we're learning the Sefer Sichot Haran, and we are up to Tarachav, paragraph 20, and in this paragraph he's going to be talking about Simcha and how critical Simcha is. This is something that is absolutely a huge theme in Rabbi Nachman's teachings, and he says that how actually the only way to succeed in life is through simcha. Okay, so he says like this: Kisha kol hayom b'simcha, az benakol lo liyached l'shah b'yom l'shabras libo l'asiach as Hashem levavay lifnei Hashem yisbarach. Kimavor tzleinu kama pa'amim. If a person is b'simcha, if a person is happy, a person is in a positive state of mind, then, and only then, is it easy for him to take an hour a day, and during that hour a day, so he can break his heart, can bring himself to a place that he has a broken heart, and you can speak out your heart with Hashem. Okay, so this is what we know. Rabbi Nachman is talking about his badudus. He's talking about his prayer meditation, talking before Hashem. And Rabbi Nachman says that what are you actually supposed to be doing in your prayer meditation? In your prayer meditation, you're actually supposed to break your heart. You're not supposed to be making jokes with Hashem. It's not good. You shouldn't be happy-go-lucky with your relationship with Hashem, in those intimate moments with God. So you should be feeling a little bit broken. You should be feeling that, like, I wish I could be better. I wish I could be living up to my potential. That's okay. That's healthy. That you're not supposed to be like making jokes with Hashem. That's weird to be making jokes with Hashem. So if you're happy the whole day, so then when you're having this intimate conversation with Hashem, then that will make it easier for you to open up. It'll make it easier for you to be real with Hashem and to break your heart. As opposed to, if you're depressed, then it's actually very difficult to break your heart and to do hisbadus and to speak what's on your mind. Okay, so what does he mean? So when you're depressed, so then you actually have nothing to say. Then you're just broken in the sense that you're dead. Okay, and a person who's dead doesn't have anything to say. Okay, you can't have a relationship. You're just not in the mood. You're just not home. Okay, so a person who's depressed. So when he comes to talk before Hashem, why is he depressed? He's depressed because he's so religious. He's depressed because he didn't have kavanah when he davened Shacharis this morning. Okay, he's depressed because he did something he wasn't supposed to do. He was going on a website he wasn't supposed to go on. He went to a movie he wasn't supposed to go. Whatever it is that he was doing something he wasn't supposed to do. So he's depressed, and he thinks that I'm so holy because I'm depressed. And this is exactly what Hashem wants from me, because how could I not be depressed because I didn't do what I was supposed to do? And so he has this religious motivation to be depressed. And then, so he's depressed and he's proud of himself because he's depressed. And then, when he wants to come to Hashem, so surprise, surprise, he doesn't really have anything to talk to Hashem because he's so depressed. Because when you're depressed, you actually aren't able to, shalom. So when you're depressed, you actually aren't able to express yourself properly. And so because he's so depressed, so he's actually losing out. Because his badudus is the main part of your relationship with Hashem. When you're actually talking to Hashem, you're feeling close to Hashem, you're feeling your relationship with Hashem. So that is the most critical part of your relationship with Hashem. And because you're depressed, and why you're depressed? Because you think you're so holy, because you're depressed. So actually what are you doing? You're actually destroying your relationship with Hashem in the name of being religious. Okay, so that is a very difficult thing. That is a very unfortunate mistake that people make. That when you're depressed, so then you're dead. When you're depressed, so then you aren't able to express yourself. If you aren't able to express yourself, you aren't able to have a relationship with Hashem. On the other hand, if you're happy, then during your hisbadudus, during the time that you put aside to talk to Hashem, then you're able to break your heart, and you're able to break your heart in a real way, in a way that's going to motivate you to improve. Okay, so now how does this make sense? So what Rabbi Nachman is coming to a person. The person. So why does he want to be depressed? We said because he wants to be depressed because he's not living up to his potential. Okay, what was he thinking? How could he possibly have not lived up to his potential? Because he's human. because he's human, so that's why, because we're human, we don't live up to our potential. So now we have two options. How should we respond to the fact that we aren't living up to our potential? Either we can beat ourselves up and be depressed and tell ourselves that you don't deserve to exist, you're such a loser, you're such a failure, or we can ignore it. We can actually ignore it and we should be happy. Okay? And so what's going to come of each? Okay, so if we're depressed, so then we think that we're helping ourselves, we think that we're doing the right thing because it's actually what makes sense, but actually what comes out is that we are destroying, literally with our own hands, we're tearing into pieces our relationship with Hashem, and we make ourselves into a position that we aren't able to have an intimate relationship with Hashem. On the other hand, if we're happy, nevertheless, despite the fact that we aren't living up to potential, so then and only then are we going to be in the place that we're vulnerable, we're open to breaking our hearts, we're open to having a real conversation with Hashem in a place that we can be real with our emotions, we can be real with the fact that we feel bad about the fact that we aren't where we would like to be, and that is going to bring us to a better place. That's going to motivate us forward. So what's the real mistake? The real mistake of the person that's depressed is that what does your depression bring you? It brings you nowhere. It doesn't get you forward, it gets you backwards. And on the other hand, if you're happy, so the happiness will bring you to a place that you're vulnerable. Happiness will bring you to a place that now, when I want to sit with Hashem and have a real conversation about how the fact that I messed up and how I'm so far from where I would really like to be, so from where He wants me to be. So my relationship is so the opposite of what it really should be. So only through happiness can I bring to myself to a place of brokenness. Okay, so basically, happiness is actually something that's keeping me alive, and it's because I'm so alive. So that's why I'm able to be in touch with my emotions. So that's why that a person should never go into a state of depression out of religious motivations, thinking that this is really what it's supposed to be, because when you're doing that, so you don't realize that you're shutting up your emotions, and if you're shutting up your emotions, then you are negating the possibility of having a true relationship with Hashem, even with those particular emotions. Okay? So now he says that and he says that the person needs to make sure that he's b'simcha when he's davening. That when you're davening, if you're not b'simcha, so then it just won't go. Okay, so now what he's noting over here is that simcha doesn't just mean that you're laughing. Simcha doesn't mean that you're always cracking up. That's good, but that's not what simcha is all about. Simcha is a state of being that you're open. Simcha is a state of being that you're vulnerable. Simcha is a state of being that you're real. Meaning that a person that's depressed is closed off. And so they aren't there. So there's no one home. So once you're turned off, so then you can't expect to have a real davening, because davening requires that you're going to be emotionally available. And so through being b'simcha, so actually I'm being emotionally available. And that's why it's critical. It's critical to have simcha before davening. That if I'm going to be closed off, so I'm just not in the mood to connect to anybody, certainly not to connect to God. Okay? So now he says something crazy. That the truth is that to come to a place of simcha is more difficult than other elements of religious life. Okay, so through all the different things that a person has to work on to change himself, to live a religious life, so he has to keep kosher, he has to keep Shabbos, he has to stop speaking Lashon Hara. The hardest thing of all of them is to be b'simcha. And this, it could be that, Rabbi Nachman was saying this, we've said other times that Rabbi Nachman was someone who struggled with simcha, that he struggled with depression. But I think what he's saying is that because simcha isn't just like a particular action, it's not just a particular exercise, but rather it's a state of mind. So to alter your state of mind is something which is more encompassing and it's more basic than any particular action. Like it's not, you can condition yourself to do stuff, but working on simcha isn't just doing stuff. It's a state of mind, and that's really harder. That's what to change your state of mind, to change the way that you experience life, to change your consciousness, is a more difficult thing than any particular action, whether it's something you're doing, whether it's something you're not doing. To change the way that you experience life is something which is like, what do you want from me? But it's just who I am. And the Torah calls upon a person to actually change who he is, to change the way that they experience life, and that's something which is difficult. He's saying it's a kasha, it's a avodah kasha. Anavi Amar, and then on this note, so he said, Kefi hanera, it would seem she'iev shalav l'simcha kiyim ayidei inyane shtos, that it appears that the only way that a person can actually come to simcha is through shtos. Shtosim means like stupidities, through just jokes, for just like, why the chicken crossed the road? Like this is like that, just really stupid jokes. A person should force themselves to be happy, to crack themselves up, and that's the way that a person can come to simcha. Last is atzma k'sheita, and to make himself like a sheita. What does it mean? What does it mean to make himself like a sheita? To make himself like a crazy person? To be the person that laughs at the bad joke. Okay, a person needs to have bad jokes. Why do you need bad jokes? Because sometimes good jokes aren't available. It's like you need you could buy the 100 shekel ticket to go to the best stand-up comedian that's around, but like sometimes you have something to do that night. Sometimes you don't have 100 shekel. Sometimes he's just doesn't have any show, and you have the mission. I need to make myself happy. I need to start laughing, and so sometimes the only thing that's available is bad jokes. So what do? So you have to make yourself like a shaita. You have to say like, I'm going to put myself in a state of mind that I'm ready to appreciate bad jokes as well. Okay, and that's what it means to make yourself like a shaita. And this is something he explains otherwise. When he explains otherwise, I looked it up. He doesn't really explain too much. He just says that this is a necessary part. Mili d'shtusa. Mili d'shtusa is an important part of being a Jew. He quotes from the Gemara. The Gemara says that Rava, every time that he would give a class, so he would open up the class with a joke. And after he said the joke, then everybody would laugh, and then they would have fear, and then they would have tremendous concentration, tremendous awe. And it was like this tremendous reverence. And so it was necessary for him to start with a joke in order to put them into a state of emotional availability. Okay, that when you're happy, so when you're a person who's laughing, so then you're emotionally available. This is something I think that Europeans and Israelis say about Americans, that they notice that Americans laugh very hard. They notice that Americans are into laughing. I never noticed it until I heard this critique, quote unquote, from I think it's a compliment, but from Israelis. But Americans, like that, sometimes Americans laugh hard. We do like, and we're proud of it. And there's another things that Americans are known for, and that is that they're very real. That they're very like they talk about, they say it the way it is. There's none of this sophistication.
And Americans
are very much like, they say it the way it is. There's none of this European sophistication. Europeans like this British like games of like, they say it to your face. And I think that the two things are really connected. Rabbi Nachman is saying that people who know how to laugh, it's because they're really there, because they're really present. And if you're really dead on the inside, so you don't know how to laugh because it's not part of your lexicon, so then part of it is that you're just not emotionally there. So of course, like, life is just about just being proper. Life is about being politically correct. So it's really these two things, that one thing really leads into the other. So Rabbi Nachman is saying that a person should force themselves to laugh, force himself to be in a state of simcha, because through the simcha, so then he's actually emotionally available. And that's really what Rav was doing. The purpose was not the simcha, the purpose was not the laughing, the purpose is the state of mind that accompanies the laughter is a state of emotional availability, and only through that only through the fact that you laughed, were you able to come to the state of Yira afterwards. Only they wouldn't have been able to actually have Yira Shemayim. They wouldn't have been able to really think about how awesome it is that Hashem is watching us, how awesome it is that we have such an amazing mission in life. They wouldn't have been able to come to that awareness if not for the laughter before, because the laughter is the only thing that made them emotionally aware, emotionally available. So Rabbi Nachman is talking about what he calls this Mila D'Shtusa. That being silly, being stupid, having stupid jokes. Once I was listening to a class from Rav Arush, from Garden of Emunah, and so he does this at the beginning of his classes, even though his classes aren't serious in the first place. His classes are very, but he says, Rabbi Nachman says that you have to have a middle d'shus, so he has a custom that I don't know if it's every class, but he starts his class with a joke. So I once so the joke that I heard in this one class that I was listening to was that there was a guy that was at a funeral, and everybody came over to the grave, to the fresh grave where this person had passed away, and he's crying and he's bawling and he can't control himself, and he says, Machulacha, I forgive you. And so somebody afterwards puts his hand around his shoulder and he says, well, I see that you're close to this guy, that what's the machulacha, did he owe you a lot of money, was something that. He said, no, huaya hashatchan shali. He was my matchmaker. But hearing Rav Arush was so cracking up. It was the great the funniest part. The joke isn't so funny, but to see Rav Arush completely cracking up from this joke. It was that's what made everybody so happy. And you can really see how just laughing is something that just opens you up. Okay? So I do think that there is truth to the fact that simply laughing for whatever reason, finding excuses to laugh, is certainly included in what Rabbi Nachman is saying over here. But I think that for our purposes, what Rabbi Nachman is really saying is that a person has to be proactive. Or in other words, that it's very easy for a person to say to himself that what do you want from me? I'm just not in a good mood. So just get off my back. What are you saying? Be happy. Just smile. I'm not in the mood. I'm not in the mood to smile. So what does it mean? What does it mean that to force yourself to laugh? Forcing yourself to laugh is a person can never say that I'm just accepting the fact that I'm not in a good mood. Okay, I think I told you before about the danger, the tumah of it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is. It can be very beautiful, but it can also be extremely, extremely suffocating. Because it is what it is very beautiful when you're saying that I didn't get the job that I wanted, I didn't get I didn't get the appreciation that I wanted, and it is what it is. I'll make the most of it. I'll become a master of lemonade. Master of lemonade, which are just. I was talking to somebody that's they were planning the wedding and something didn't work out the way that they wanted it to work out. So I said as a joke, is there going to be lemonade at your wedding at the bar? Is there? And she didn't get it. She's like, I think so. I have to check. I said, no, because you're the master of lemonade, and that's what you're. And they said, oh, okay, ha ha. So there's one thing beautiful about it is what it is, in the sense that whatever life is gonna deal me, so I'll make the most of it. But there's another, it is what it is, and that is that I'm not expected to change, and I can just have this radical acceptance of whatever negative character traits I have, whatever. I'm just gonna have self-love and self-acceptance, and I'm just a nasty person, and I have to love that. And I have to just have acceptance of the fact that I'm lazy, acceptance of the fact that I haven't gotten out of bed before 3 p.m. for the past 2 months, and I can just love that. And it is what it is. So how dare you tell me that maybe I should get up earlier, because it is what it is. And that Rabbi Nachman is saying that what Mapitome, a person has to take control of their life. A person has to know that there is no it is what it is, that I can make things better. And not only can I make things better in my actions, but Rabbi Nachman says I can even make things better in my state of mind. And that's what's so revolutionary. Over here, the Rabbi Nachman is saying that it's a person is called upon. A person is responsible for their state of mind. Whether this means sometimes it means going to therapy. Sometimes it means taking meds, and sometimes it means that things that you can do in your own home, your home remedies, that without a local drug dealer. That sometimes it means just looking up some bad jokes and just laughing at bad jokes. Sometimes it means putting on fast music. Sometimes really fast beats, happy music. Sometimes people do the opposite. Sometimes people that are depressed, so they love hearing sad music, and it supports, it justifies, it validates their negative feelings, and they feel at ease. And they feel like, and this is one of the dangers. This is one of the dangers of art. That sometimes a person can express so beautifully how depressed they are, and express how very beautifully how they wish they were dead, and then a person could listen to this music and say, "Wow, yeah, that's so beautiful. That's exactly what I'm feeling right now. They totally get me." And what do you feel then? Then you feel like you're validated that you wish you were dead. Because before you listened to this music, so you wished you were dead, but you felt, deep down, you felt a little guilty about it. Because you know that you're not supposed to wish you were dead. But if my hero also wishes that they were dead, then that's totally okay, right? And so, little do you know that your hero, so they were talking about the fact that they wish they were dead, but they actually don't wish they were dead, because they actually made $1 million on this song. You're the only loser. You're the one who is. They don't actually wish they were dead. They're performing. They're so alive in the fact that they wish that they were dead, and you're the only one that's sitting just crying in your room, listening to the fact that they wish that they were dead, and you're taking it to a very, very dangerous place. So a person has to be proactive. But a person that's feeling these negative feelings, feeling this negative state of mind. So music is certainly a very powerful tool that we have. That a person can put themselves into a state that I want to change. I want to change the way my mind is working. I want to change my thought process, my state of being. And music is something which is very powerful when it comes to that. Exercise is something that a person that isn't in the mood, a person that feels like just not in the mood for life. So a person should get outside, even if first of all, even if you're not going to exercise, just fresh air. Just fresh air is something which is amazing for changing a person's perspective, changing a person's the way that they experience life. So certainly, that even more than just fresh air is that just seeing nature, seeing beauty, and actually moving your body, getting your blood pumping, that these are things that can alter your consciousness. So a person is called upon, a person is responsible to do whatever they can do to change their consciousness. That when I'm feeling down, so I cannot just take it that it is what it is. I cannot just accept it, but I need to do something. And so that's certainly, and another thing that we can do is that we can actually go to sleep. We can actually go to sleep. So sometimes, depending, I wouldn't do this if it's 10 in the morning, but sometimes a person that sometimes their worst depression, their worst feelings are late at night. And just to make an active decision, I'm going to go to sleep, and tomorrow's going to be a better day. Now, going to sleep is an expression of emunah. Going to sleep with a negative perspective, with the knowledge that I'm going to sleep now, not because I'm giving up, because tomorrow is another day. Because I trust that Hashem can refresh me. And this is something that it talks about in Landes Farm. The Ramchal writes how when we go to sleep, so something amazing happens to our soul. It's not just our body, that our soul is refreshed. That's precisely what I'm talking about. Like the fact that when we sleep, we wake up in a better state of consciousness, that's because something affected our soul. Because the sleep affected our soul, not just our body. And this is something that we need to be aware of, that it's a powerful tool. Sleep is a powerful tool for our soul. And this is why Chazal made the whole ceremony called Kriyash Malamita. This is why Chazal made that it's important. It's important to say Shema before you go to sleep. It's important to say other psukim before you go to sleep, like it says in the Siddur, because when you say Shema before you go to sleep, so then when you go to sleep, then your soul is going to the right places. Meaning that when you go to sleep, so your soul could go to the spa. It could go they have different, they call it as a certain mikvah. There's a certain mikvah in the higher worlds that your soul goes to, and this cleanses your soul from all of this negative emotions, from those negative energies, and this mikvah in heaven, so it actually cleanses your soul. And that's why when you wake up in the morning, so you feel better, you feel calmer. On the other hand, so sometimes you wake up in the morning and you feel the opposite. Sometimes you feel like just like full of anxiety, and you you don't know what was going on. Like when you went to sleep, you weren't feeling this anxiety, and you know why? Because when you were asleep, so your soul went to not such good places, and so that's why we have this takana, we have this mitzvah of Kriyash Malamita, because this is a skula that through saying Kriyash Malamita, so it's a way to ensure that your soul is only going to go to the good places, and it's going to get the cleansing that it and the fixing that it needs. And one of the psukim that it says that you're supposed to say is biyadcha av kiruchi, padisa isi Hashem kel emes, that biyadcha av kiruchi means that Hashem, I have put my soul, I've put my spirit, I'm giving it into your hands, I'm trusting you to take care of my soul as a safeguard. Okay, Afkid Pikadon is a safeguard. Biadcha Afkid Ruchi, that Hashem is giving you my soul as a safeguard. And the Rizal writes that these three words, Biadcha Afkid Ruchi, is Rashi Tevas Be'er. Bet, Aleph, Resh, Be'er is a well. The meaning that Hashem has this well of cleansing, has this well of purity. And when you are giving over your soul as a safeguard to Hashem, so that Hashem can cleanse you, that Hashem can heal you, Hashem can get rid of all of these negative emotions, negative states of mind. And so going to sleep can actually be a very therapeutic activity. Okay, so this is something that we can do, and it's an active decision that I make. I want to go to sleep. Because if you don't think about it, if you're just going to accept what it is, sometimes you can get into this horrible cycle that because I'm depressed, so you're not in the mood to go to sleep, so you're just numbing yourself and just scrolling until 4 a.m, and then surprise, after 3 hours of sleep, so you're not in such a great state of mind, and so you just get into the cycle of so of course you're depressed the whole day, and so then at night you need to wind down. And so how do you wind down? What better way than to scroll again until 4 a.m, and then it just repeats itself. And so just to take control and to say, I'm not okay with this. I'm going to do something that's going to change me. I'm going to do something that's going to fix me. So this is really a person is called upon to make sure that they take control of their state of mind, to make sure they're not just going to accept it, I'm going to do something about it, whether it's home remedies, like we said, whether it's going to a psychiatrist, whether it's going to therapy, whether it's the person needs to know that I can never just accept the fact that I'm in a negative state of mind. And this is what Rabbi Nachman says. This is why it's an avodah kasha. It's a hard avodah. It's a difficult avodah because it's much easier to just do things. When you're not in the mood and I'm not in the state of mind that this is something that at all interests me. So then you need to draw from a deeper part in yourself. Okay, this is a deeper part than your consciousness. It's the part of your consciousness that knows that I don't enjoy being in such a negative state of mind, and we're all there. And we have these new age New Age gurus, they're telling you that it's okay, just accept it. And deep down, we know that it's not okay. Deep down, we know that we would like to be in a better place. So Rabbi Nachman is telling us that it is in our control. And so this is the first Torah. This is what Rabbi Nachman is saying of how critical it is to be b'simcha, because when we're in a state of simcha, so then we're in a state of emotional availability, and to take ownership, to take control over the fact that I'm going to be b'simcha whatever it takes, and to do things that are going to ensure the fact that my state of mind is going to be changed, is going to be in a better place. Okay, now we come to Chaf Aleph. Torah Chaf Aleph, to the 21st Sichot Sivan. At first glance, this seems to be completely unconnected, but I think that we'll see why Rabbi Nachman thought that these two things actually are connected. He said, "Rosh Hashanah." This is Torah about Rosh Hashanah, about how a person should be showing up to Rosh Hashanah, and the truth is, it's not so far away that it's already the next holiday. Believe it or not. So it's like we have the summer now, and then after the summer. So Rosh Hashanah, Rabbi Nachman's his whole thing was Rosh Hashanah. So in Breslov, you can always sing about Rosh Hashanah. That Rabbi Nachman's, there was his whole theme song. Rosh Hashanah tzrichim niyos chacham sheyachshav rak machshavot tova. The person has to make sure that in Rosh Hashanah, so he only thinks good thoughts. Sheyetiv Hashem yisbarach imano. He should have positive thoughts. What are the positive thoughts? That Hashem should give us good lives. Hashem should give us a good year. You have to have only positive thoughts. So this is the obvious connection. And the person has to be happy by Rosh Hashanah. Has to be in a good state of mind. Why? Because if you're in a good state of mind, so then it's going to be good for you. Okay. Now, what does he mean? What does he mean? The person has to be chacham. He has to be wise. He has to have good thoughts. Why is it wise to have good thoughts? It's always important to have good thoughts. But on Rosh Hashanah, you have to be wise. Why? Because the thing about Rosh Hashanah is that the Gemara tells us that however you are on Rosh Hashanah, so that is going to decide how you're going to be the rest of the year. That's going to define the rest of the year. That everything, holech achar haschala. Everything goes by the Rosh. We call it the Rosh Hashanah. The Rosh is the head. So the imagery is that Rosh Hashanah is the head, and then the rest of the body follows the head. Right? The person goes into something head first. That means that first your head goes into something, and then after your head goes into something, then your body follows. So Rosh Hashanah is that this is the Rosh, this is the head of the year, and once your head is in this year, so then the rest of the body, the rest of the year, it follows the head. So if the body is going to follow the head, and Rosh Hashanah is the head, so then however you present yourself, however you show up on Rosh Hashanah, that's how you're going to show up the rest of the year. And that's why it says that a person has to make sure, Chazal say, that a person has to make sure that they don't sleep so much on Rosh Hashanah. They have to wake up at a good time. If a person is very sleepy on Rosh Hashanah, so that they're going to have a sleepy year. You have to be very awake on Rosh Hashanah. And so Rabbi Nachman is saying that this is relevant to everything. Okay? That's what Chazal says, that you shouldn't have bitter foods, you shouldn't have sour foods, you should only have sweet foods. All things about having sweet foods, it's all because we want the head to be in a state of sweetness. So Rabbi Nachman says that it's not just about what you eat, it's about what you think. So that's why a person has to have happy thoughts. This person has positive thoughts. A person has to be thinking that Hashem, you're going to give us a great year. You're going to give us a great year. You're going to give us a great. I'm so excited. You're going to give us a great year. Because if a person is terrified of Rosh Hashanah, a person is going through Rosh Hashanah thinking, oh my gosh, I'm for sure going to die this year. Oh my gosh, Hashem, please spare me. I know I'm going to die this year. Please spare me, please. Then he's filling his head with negative thoughts. So I'm sorry to tell you that if you filled your head with negative thoughts, so then those negative thoughts created your reality for the entire year. So that's what he says, Tzarech lios chacham. You have to be wise. That's really dumb. You just killed yourself. You filled your head with negativity. You filled your head with negativity, And because you filled your head with negativity, so you filled your year with negativity. So like, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? Why did you think that's going to help you? You thought you're being so religious. You thought that Hashem wants you to be full of anxiety. Because you thought Hashem wants you to be full of anxiety, so you filled your head with negativity. And because you filled your head with negativity, so you filled your year with negativity. So that's why it's important to have good thoughts. Rosh Hashanah, a person has to be sure, has to be positive, has to be trusting that Hashem is going to give him an amazing year. And that's called being smart, because through these thought processes, through filling your head with positive thoughts, so you're actually filling your year with positive stuff. Okay? And not only do you have to have thoughts of positivity, so you have to have thoughts of simcha. You have to have a state of mind of simcha, because the state of mind of simcha is something which is also going to affect the year. If you go into the year with your head in a state of simcha, so then that's going to define what the rest of the year is. Now he says, Gam tzrichim livkos b'Rosh Hashanah. You also have to cry at Rosh Hashanah. And he says even more, b'Rosh Hashanah, b'yom harishon tzrichim l'ma'it b'diber ma'od ma'od. And on Rosh Hashanah, on the first day, so you have to really limit how much you talk. And the holier you are, the more that you have to be careful about this. He was so, Rebbe Nachman himself, he was so careful not to talk a lot on Rosh Hashanah, on the first day of Rosh Hashanah, that not only would he not speak to his students, he wouldn't even say all of the prayers. He wouldn't even say all of the prayers, because some of the prayers he said, I think this is talking too much. I think that I'll just try to be as silent as I can. Only like the minimum amount of davening, that's what he would say. Like anything extra poems that people wrote, that people that have somehow found themselves into the siddur, he would not say them. So now, so this is what Rabbi Nachman is saying, that that on Rosh Hashanah, on the first day, a person has to limit this speech. Now, let's talk about this a little bit. What is this idea? What is this idea of not speaking, of limiting our speech on Rosh Hashanah? So, Rosh Hashanah is a day of creation. Rosh Hashanah is on the first day, so we're being recreated. And just like Hashem created Adam and Chava on this first Rosh Hashanah, so every year Hashem put aside the day of Rosh Hashanah as a day of being recreated. So how are we going to put ourselves in a place that we're going to be created in the best way? So Chazal say a very interesting thing, that mitchila ala b'machshava divrei ha'olam b'din. That at the beginning, Hashem's first thought was to create the world with judgment. He saw that it's not so practical. He saw that if Hashem is going to create the world with judgment, so then nobody's going to survive, because judgment we can't live up to what judgment makes sense. So Amad v'shitef elav rachmim. So he took mercy and compassion, and he put it together with the judgment. Okay, so this is what Chazal say. Chazal said this as based on the psukim, because there's two times that the Torah talks about the creation. The first time it says Bereshis bara Elokim. Perek Aleph it says Bereshis bara Elokim. Elokim we know is a name of judgment, and then in Perek Bet it says always Hashem Elokim. Havaya Elokim. Havaya is Rachamim. The Shem Yud Kei Vav Kei is a Shem of compassion, and so Hashem the second time around, so Hashem mixed the compassion together with judgment. Okay, so that's why we have this a difference between Perek Aleph and Perek Bet. So now what is it? Why is the Hashem started? When Hashem first created, He wanted it to be bedin. He wanted it to be with judgment. He wanted it to be with truth. So the commentaries explain that there's something very beautiful about truth, because Hashem is truth, and so for a person to be able to live up to say that I deserve my existence, There's something very, very beautiful about that. The person to stand up before Hashem and say that, like, I deserve you to create me. That's actually more godly than saying, Hashem, please have compassion on me. Because Hashem doesn't need compassion. Hashem deserves to exist. Hashem exists just because he exists. So if a person could stand up before Hashem and say, Hashem, I deserve to exist, so that's being more godly than deserving compassion. So that's why the first day of Hashem is more connected to din, it's more connected to judgment, and the second day is more connected to rachamim, it's more connected to compassion. So because the first day is about rachamim, is about din. So that's why Rabbi Nachman says that really the best way to show up before Hashem is through bittul. It's through bittul. That to say, Hashem, I'm just negated before you. I'm nothing. I'm absolutely nothing. Because that's the absolute truth. That from a perspective of din, so then I don't exist. I'm just negating myself in front of you. And so much so that a person like him, like Rabbi Nachman, that actually was able to come to a state of bittul. So when you're in a state of bittul, so then you can't even talk. And the truth is that is why the mitzvah of Hashem is the mitzvah of Shefer. Because what the mitzvah of Shefer? Shefer is a cry without words. Meaning that when we're blowing the Shefer, really what we're saying is, Hashem, I'm crying out to you from a place that there's nothing for me to say. Because to talk would be too much presence. It would be too much that I'm here. And at the moment I'm here, to be here is like Hashem was saying, what are you doing here? You don't deserve to be here. So because I don't deserve to be here, so the only normal response is, Hashem, I'm not here. I'm just completely negated to you because I actually don't deserve to be here. And that expression of bittul, that expression of negation, so that expresses itself in the fact that I'm just crying out without words because there's nothing for me to say. And that's what Shefer represents. And that's what this lack of speech. Now Rabbi Nachman he's saying that, like, this is for me. Like, you guys you should talk. You guys you should, and he's saying that the reason why it's important for you to talk is because it's so critical for you to be able to simcha. Because that he himself, he has the balance. He himself, that he's just said that I need to have positive thoughts, I need to have happy thoughts, because Rosh Hashanah is the day that I'm deciding my entire future. So that's why it's important to be in a positive state of mind. And at the same time, so Rosh Hashanah is a time of bittul, and bittul requires that a person is going to be quiet. A person is going to stop existing so much. So Rabbi Nachman brings this. Rabbi Nachman brings this as an afterthought to what we just learned in Torah Chav. Okay? Because in Torah Chav, so he talks about the relationship between being serious and being happy. And he says the person could have good intentions and think about how lacking they are in Avodas Hashem, how lacking they are in Hashem's expectations for them. And because I'm so far from where I would like to be, so then I decide that the only logical response is to be depressed. And so Rabbi Nachman says that because of my good intentions, so I actually kill myself, I actually bring myself to a place that I'm not emotionally available. Because I'm not emotionally available, so I'm not able to have a normal relationship with Hashem. So that's why he says that this same problem exists in Rosh Hashanah. In Rosh Hashanah, so a person comes before Hashem, and he says that Hashem, this is the day of bittul. This is the day of judgment. This is the day that I don't deserve to exist. So I'm going to try to just not exist, and then so he brings us to him so into his not existing, and so into his crying, so into that I don't deserve anything. So then what do you do? So he filled his head with negativity. He filled his head with feelings of worthlessness. He filled his head with feelings that I shouldn't be here. I deserve to be dead. Hashem, you should totally kill me because I'm such a bad Jew. And so because he filled his head with negativity, so then he filled his year with negativity. And so that's why Rabbi Nachman is saying that you have to be so careful. You have to be so careful in Rosh Hashanah, because you can see tzaddikim that that they're in the state of seriousness, and they're in the state of bittul, they're the state that like they have nothing to say before Hashem, and you don't realize that tzaddik, so he's able to, I don't know what to say, like it's like multitask on an emotional level, to to have contradictory emotions at the very same time. And it's very Rav Kook writes about doing kiruv in general. We're talking about how to have a relationship with people who go against Hashem. And so Rav Kook writes that a person has to be very, very, very on top of his emotions, a very master of his emotions, in order to have two contradictory emotions at the same time. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's very far from Hashem, so you have to have two contradictory emotions simultaneously. Number one, that you absolutely adore the divine soul, and at the other hand, at the same time, you absolutely hate the fact that they are not fulfilling what Hashem wants from them in life, and they're going completely against what they were supposed to be doing, and that's not okay. And so, if a person is going to have the extreme love for their soul without having the hatred for the anger and the fact that they're completely ruining their lives, so then that it might bring you to a place of acceptance and said, yeah, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. I have a cousin that they aren't religious, and I love them because it says I love them and they're great people. So they are great people. So I can do that too. And a person. So and on the other hand, a person could be so into the sinner and come to that's not okay. That's not okay. You're not doing what Hashem wants from you, and so you can hate the person as well, and that's also not okay. So that's why Rav Kook writes that if you want to have a relationship with non-religious people, so you have to be a master of your emotions. You have to be able to have these two simultaneous emotions. So Rabbi Nachman is saying that it's the same thing when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. That the tzaddik, so he is the one who's able to be in the state of bittul, to be in the state that he's completely negated before Hashem, and that doesn't bring him to a place of depression. He knows that he's so excited about this amazing, amazing, awesome year. And at the same time, he feels that he's absolutely nothing. He's able to feel the greatness of everything that's coming down through the fact that he's completely nothing, and through the fact that he completely doesn't deserve to exist. Because he knows that through this feeling of negation to Hashem, through this feeling that I'm absolutely nothing, that is what earns him an amazing year. So a person who's less sophisticated, so he's not going to, like when he says I'm nothing, so he thinks he's really nothing, and so then it could get him to a dangerous place. And that's why this is only really appropriate behavior for tzaddikim, and it's not appropriate for the regular people, because the regular people aren't able to be such masters of their emotions. I want to say very quickly, because I think that this is another afterthought, and this third. The Torah that Rabbi Nachman shares is actually a very direct continuation of what we just said. Tov ma'od mishazaycha liyas mekurav l'tzadik amiti. It's so important to be connected to tzaddikim. It's so important to be tzaddikim amitim. You have to be a true tzaddik. Ki la'aseh lavai ksiv lachos b'kanfis ha'aretz v'yinaru b'shar mimena. It says that when Mashiach comes, so Hashem is going to take the four corners of the world, and he's going to shake it. He's going to shake the earth. And all of the Rishayim, all of the wicked people, they're going to fall off. So what are we going to do? We're all wicked. So we're all going to fall off. What's going to be with us? So he says, you know what you do? Mishum kurv l'tzadikiyem as yachsev yechazatzu b'tzadik. But it's okay. Even though we don't deserve to still be here, because we're not so great, but if we hold on, if we latch on to the tzadikim, so then we're going to stay on. Okay? So this is something that it's a major theme in Chassidus. The connection to the tzaddik is something that is less talked about in non-Chassidic circles. But the truth is that it has sources in Chazal, that it says in the Gemara that before Rabbi Nasi passed away, so before Rabbi passed away, so it says about a certain person that so and so shimshuni b'chayei yishamshuni b'misasi, that he served me when I was alive, so he will serve me in the world to come as well. In other words, that this guy, he actually doesn't deserve to be in the world to come, but because he was always the one pouring me water during my classes, so I'm going to be, Rabbi Nasi is saying, I'm going to be in heaven, and I'm going to be in my chamber and Olam Haba, and then I'm going to say, hey, I need some water. where's Yankel? So then they're going to take Yankel from Ganem, and they say Yankel, we need you in heaven. And so Yankel's going to get to Gan Eden because of his connection to the tzaddik in this world. Okay, so this is what we see, that it's actually a real thing, that connecting to a tzaddik actually can get you places in the world to come. And so now Rabbi Nachman is saying this, that this is why it's so important. Even though we're going to be living normal lives, but it's critical that we should have tzaddikim that are going to take us to that higher state of consciousness. Meaning that it's okay to do what works for us, but at the same time, we need to be connected to the tzaddik that reminds us that this is not the end-all and be-all, that there are high levels of existence. And not only that, but they are going to help us be connected to that higher level of existence. And this is something that the truest task of a tzaddik is to help the people around him, to help bring them to his experience, bring them to their higher level of closest to Hashem. The true test of somebody as a tzaddik is that when you're around them, do you just feel a little bit better? Do you feel a little bit holier? Do you feel a little bit nicer? And this is something that Reb Shlomo would say about Simchas Torah, that in Simchas Torah, so there's different customs of how to dance by different chassidusim. So in some chassidusim, so everyone dances. Everyone dances with the Sefer Torah. That's what they do in a lot of places. By some chassidusim, so only the Rebbe dances. Only the Rebbe dances, and everybody watches. But he said in some chassidusim, so the Rebbe dances, but he takes every single chassid with him. That in some chassidusim, a true Rebbe is a person that when we are observing him, you're just watching them, you're just connecting to him, so that you suddenly feel higher. You suddenly feel like you're somehow experiencing what he's experiencing. And that's truly the task of a tzaddik. And that's why it's incumbent on us to find tzaddikim that can bring us, connect us to, not bring us, we can't really be on that higher level, but we can be part of that higher level of experience. And so that's why he was saying about himself, that for me, I don't like to talk in Rosh Hashanah, but for you guys, you have to make sure that your Rosh Hashanah is full of happiness, is full of positivity. And it's okay. Don't think that you're going to lose out. You're not going to get your good Rosh Hashanah because you're connected to me. Now, does that mean that you have to go to Uman Rosh Hashanah? I'll leave that for other people to decide. But I do think that Rabbi Nachman is talking about a live tzaddik. I do think that it's critical for a person to find a live mentor that actually makes you feel that you're closer to their spiritual experience, because there's something about watching them in their avodah, that experiencing how they connect with Hashem, that they actually bring a certain energy into the room, and by the mere fact that you're in the room with them, you're feeling their energy, and by feeling their energy, so you're somehow connected to that energy, and that's what Rabbi Nachman is inviting us, is encouraging us, and he's instructing us to make sure that we find tzaddikim, that we search them out. And we should never say, like, what do I have to do with that? That you need to know that it's not okay to be our little, it is what it is, our loser, it's the best I can do kind of reality, kind of Judaism. So it is the best we can do, but we still need to know that this is not the way it should be, and to try to find the people that are as close to the real thing as we can, and connect to them, to that Hashem. All right, L'chaim.